410.2 The CRC recommends that the President should be removed from office where it is found that the President I. is unable to perform the functions of the office whether arising from infirmity of mind or body or any other cause, behaves in a manner that endangers the security of the state. 2. Misbehaves in a manner that brings the office into disrepute, or IV. Pledges allegiance to a foreign state or foreign power. Page 25 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 410.3 The CRC further recommends that 410.3.1 The process to remove the President from office be as follows. I. Commenced by a motion setting out the full particulars on which the removal is to be grounded, which is tabled in the Parliament by the Leader of Government Business at a joint sitting of both Houses, and carried by a vote of 2/3, 2/3, majority of the Parliament at a joint sitting of both Houses with each House voting separately by secret ballot. 2. Followed by the establishment of an ad hoc parliamentary committee drawn from members of both Houses comprising, from the House of Representatives, 4 from the government side and 3 from the opposition, and from the Senate 2 appointed by the Prime Minister, 1 appointed by the Leader of the Opposition, and 1 of the independent members appointed by the President. The committee is to be chaired by the Leader of Government Business in the House of Representatives. This committee is expected to investigate the complaint and report on the facts to the Parliament within. Page 26 of 52nd. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 6 months after hearing witnesses and/or reviewing evidence. The tabling of the report of the ad hoc parliamentary committee to the Parliament at a joint sitting of both Houses and debate to follow. IV. Where it is reported that the ground for removal has been established, the President shall be removed on the passing of a resolution carried by a vote of 2/3, 2/3, majority of the Parliament at a joint sitting of both Houses with each House voting separately, by secret ballot. 410.3.2 On the approval by the Parliament of the motion, referred to above at paragraph 410.3.1, I. The President shall cease to exercise the functions of office and an interim President appointed, in the manner set out below at paragraph 410.3.5, until the matter is finally determined. 410.3.3 The ad hoc parliamentary committee referred to at paragraph 410.3.1 to SECU shall be empowered to I. Investigate and inquire into the allegations, call for evidence and hear witnesses, and page 27 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 2. Make a recommendation to Parliament as to whether the President should remain in or be removed from the office based on the nature of the allegations and the findings of the committee. 410.3.4. The time within which the report of the ad hoc parliamentary committee referred to above at paragraph 410.3.12 is tabled may be extended for a further period not exceeding 6 months on the passing of a motion carried by a vote of the absolute majority of the Parliament at a joint sitting of both Houses with each House voting separately by secret ballot. The motion to extend the time shall be accompanied by an interim report. 410.3.5% On the acceptance by the Parliament of a recommendation validly made to remove the President, the office of the President shall become vacant. Until the process to appoint a new President, as provided for above at paragraph 4.3.2, is complete, an interim President shall be appointed in the following manner. By the Prime Minister with the concurrence of the Leader of the Opposition, or 2. Where there is no concurrence between the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Page 28 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. Opposition by the Prime Minister from among the custodes. 410.4 The CRC further recommends that the proceedings related to the removal of the President from office should not prejudice any other proceedings on the matter being dealt with external to the Parliament. 4.11 Transition to the office of the President of the Republic of Jamaica. 411.1 In order to ensure a smooth transition from the current Constitution of Jamaica to the reformed Constitution of Jamaica, the CRC recommends that the holder of the office of Governor-General at the time when the reformed Constitution of Jamaica comes into effect shall assume the office of President of the Republic of Jamaica on a transitional basis until the selection process for the President of the Republic of Jamaica is expeditiously completed. The CRC is of the view that this could be completed within a three-month period. 4.11.2 The CRC further recommends that in the event that the holder of the office of the Governor-General at the time when the reformed Constitution comes into effect is either unable or unwilling to assume the role and functions of the President during the transitional period, that transitional President be appointed by the Prime Minister after consultation with the Leader of the Opposition. From among the custodes or from among. Page 29 of 52nd. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. The President's Council, the former Jamaican Privy Council. 5. Retention of the Parliamentary Cabinet System. 5.1 Comparison of the Parliamentary Cabinet System and the Presidential System. 5.1.1 A parliamentary cabinet system of government is a system of governance in which the executive branch derives its legitimacy from and is accountable to the legislature, Parliament. In this system, the head of government, often called the Prime Minister, is typically a member of the Parliament and is chosen on the basis of leadership or support of the party or parties, which gain a majority in parliamentary elections. 5.1.2 A presidential form of government, on the other hand, is a system of governance in which the executive branch is separate from the legislative branch. In this system, the president normally serves as both the head of state as well as the head of the executive government and is not usually a member of the legislature. 5.1.3 The following table below highlights the key differences considered by the CRC between the two systems of government. Page 30 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. Features Parliamentary Cabinet System. Presidential System. Executive Head Prime Minister, who is typically selected from among members of President, who is elected and is not usually a member of the legislature. Parliament. Separation of powers. No clear separation between executive and legislative branches. Clear separation of powers between executive and legislative branches. Selection of executive chosen from the majority party or coalition in Parliament. Elected directly by the people or through an electoral college. Cabinet composition and accountability. Appointed from the Parliament and collectively responsibility to the people through the Parliament. Appointed by the President and may or may not be members of the legislature. Term of office. Prime Minister's tenure is not usually fixed and can be determined by elections or party dynamics. President typically serves a fixed term in office. Checks and balances. Executive is accountable to the Parliament, which can remove the government through a vote of no confidence. Executive and legislative branches have separate control with checks and balances include veto power. Page 31 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. Features Parliamentary Cabinet System. Presidential System. Stability and decision-making. Provides stability, offers flexibility and greater decisiveness. Often leads to gridlock. 5.1.4 The poor record of the presidential system in the preservation of democracy and protection of the people against dictatorship is well documented. The true position is, as the editor of the Presidential Studies Quarterly stated in Part 4 of the 1987 issue, other nations which have sought to emulate the American document have not succeeded. Dr. Simeon McIntosh, an eminent Caribbean constitutional law scholar, in a published article wrote, Professor Juan Lins of Yale University, in a monumental study on this very subject, has observed that, with the outstanding exception of the United States, most of the stable democracies of Europe and the Commonwealth are parliamentary regimes. In contrast, most of the countries with presidential constitutions have been unstable democracies or authoritarian regimes. 17. 5.1.5 There is no doubt parliamentary system are among the most stable democracies and are generally highly rated on the World Economic Indices. That countries which have the 17. Juan J. Lins, Democracy, Presidential or Parliamentary, Does It Make a Difference? Yale University, July 1985. Page 32 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May. These include most Caribbean community countries, notably Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and Barbados, and others such as Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Iceland, Norway, and CARICOM, Sweden. In the Stone Committee report that examined ways of strengthening the roles and performance of parliamentarians, Professor Carl Stone recommended that Jamaica should replace the parliamentary cabinet system with the presidential system. Among the developing democracies which Professor Stone named to be treated as models for having operated the presidential system successfully are Venezuela, Chile, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Peru. The CRC has noted that since then, these countries that Jamaica has been asked to emulate have experienced severe political turmoil or constitutional crises. 5.1.7 Having carefully weighed the strengths and weaknesses of both systems of government, the CRC recommends that the parliamentary cabinet system be retained. 6. Reform of the Parliament. 6.1 The citizenship qualification. 6.1.1 The CRC considered the citizenship and not Commonwealth citizenship should be the citizenship criterion for membership in the Parliament of. Issue of whether Jamaican. Jamaica. 18. See Archbishop Samuel Carter Lecture 2002 by Dr. the Honorable Lloyd Barnett, OJ 19. Carl Stone, Ministry Paper No. 11, 1990, Kingston, Office of the Prime Minister. Page 33 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee, May 2024. 6.1.2 Currently, Section 39 of the Constitution entitles a Commonwealth citizen to be a member of Parliament if he or she has been ordinarily resident in Jamaica for the 12 months immediately preceding election or nomination, and 2. Requires a Jamaican citizen to be similarly resident. 6.13 The 1995 JCCR and recommended to Parliament that Commonwealth citizens, who are not Jamaican citizens, should no longer be entitled to be parliamentarians, and that the residential requirement should no longer apply to Jamaican citizens to enable them to. Its assessment of Section 39, be parliamentarians. 6.1.4 The CRC considered the following basic questions. Whether the entitlement of Commonwealth as broadly defined should remain. Secu. Whether Jamaicans living abroad with United States, U.S. citizenship, or the citizenship of any other foreign country should be barred from membership in Parliament. Secu. The type of citizenship qualification that would be required to serve in the Jamaican Parliament. And 4. Whether Commonwealth citizens who are not Jamaicans should continue to qualify for membership in the Parliament. 6.1.5 On the matter of Commonwealth citizenship, the CRC took into account that the Commonwealth of Nations is a free association of sovereign states comprising the United Kingdom and a number of countries including its former. Page 34 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. Colonies. These states have chosen to establish or maintain ties of friendship and practical cooperation and acknowledge the British monarch as the symbolic head of the Commonwealth of Nations. 6.1.6 It was specifically noted that since 1949, independent countries from Africa, the Americas, Asia, Europe, and the Pacific have joined the Commonwealth. The last 4 countries to have joined, Mozambique, Rwanda, Gabon, and Togo, have no historical ties to the British Empire. 6.1.7 In today's context, relationships within the Commonwealth have evolved with reduced reference to the monarch. 6.1.8 The CRC is of the view that the Constitution is not the appropriate place for dealing with Commonwealth citizenship. The CRC therefore recommends that current references to Commonwealth citizens should be removed and that status be dealt with by ordinary legislation. 6.1.9 The CRC further recommends that Jamaican citizenship should be the essential qualifying citizenship criterion for membership in the Parliament. 6.2% Disqualification. 6.2.1 The CRC is strongly of the view that a person who is convicted of a serious criminal offense should be disqualified from sitting as a lawmaker. 6.2.2 The Constitution currently provides that a person who has a criminal record is not disqualified from parliamentary. Page 35 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. Membership unless the conviction is for an electoral offense. The CRC therefore recommends that the provision be expanded to include convictions for offenses involving treason, and convictions for any offense involving fraud or violence where the person has been sentenced to a term of imprisonment for a period of 18 months or more. 6.3 Impeachment Process. 6.3.1 During its engagements, the CRC took into consideration the repeated concerns expressed by the public about the lack of accountability among parliamentarians. The CRC discussed, at length, over multiple meetings, the related issues. In particular, the CRC acknowledged calls for the inclusion of a process of impeachment and examined the history and experiences of impeachment in other jurisdictions. The CRC further considered whether and how impeachment would work in the Jamaican context. 6.3.2 The CRC recommends that there should be no inclusion of an impeachment process in the reformed constitution for the following reasons. It is dealing with what is essentially a legal matter through a political process, as most impeachable offenses are criminal in nature and properly triable in the courts. 2. It can easily be manipulated for partisan political purposes. It is difficult to ensure an impartial hearing by members of a parliament that is divided along partisan political lines. Page 36 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 2. The Parliament would have to be provided with its own investigative resources. 4. Where the matter being investigated involves the allegation of a crime, then the normal criminal proceedings would be invoked, which creates the risk of competing and conflicting jurisdictions and outcomes. And v. In cases where impeachable offenses are not criminal offenses. The definitions are generally vague, and therefore the impeachment process is inconsistent with the principles of natural justice. 6.4 Fixed general elections date. 6.4.1 The CRC is aware that some Jamaican political leaders, civil society organizations, political analysts, and members of the public have advocated for fixing the date for parliamentary general elections. The Constitution, by virtue of Section 64(2), now gives the Prime Minister the discretion to call the national general elections at any time within the life of the Parliament. This discretion is often exercised to gain political advantage. 6.4.2 While recognizing that there are good grounds for the proposal to adopt a fixed election date, the CRC is of the opinion that a precise and inflexible date may be problematic in a small country like Jamaica. However, it is still possible to introduce greater certainty as to when parliamentary elections are held, by having a fixed duration for the life of the Parliament and a limited period in which to fix the actual election date. Page 37 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 6.4.3 During the deliberations on the issue of a fixed date for general parliamentary elections, it was suggested that the matter be referred to the ECJ, which, by virtue of its mandate, is empowered to recommend changes to the electoral laws. At the same time, the CRC was reminded that the life of the Parliament is a matter provided for in the Constitution, and given the highest level of protection that is, it is a deeply entrenched provision. 6.4.4% Since the matter was repeatedly raised for consideration during public consultations and within the CRC itself, and falls within the work proposed for Phase 1 of the reform process, the CRC recommends that in the event there is consensus between the two political parties represented in the Parliament, the life of the Parliament should be fixed at 5 years, with provisions for the actual election date to be set by the Prime Minister on a day within a period not exceeding 3 months. 6.5 Extension of life of Parliament in cases of public disasters. 6.5.1 The CRC considered that the ground on which the life of Parliament may be extended is limited to Jamaica being at war. However, it is recognized that there are other circumstances that could arise at a critical point in the life of the Parliament that may prevent the resumption of Parliament and make the holding of general elections impracticable. 6.5.2 Accordingly, the CRC recommends that the provisions of Section 64(3) of the Constitution be expanded to include disasters created by or as a result of the occurrence of any. Page 38 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. Earthquake, hurricane, flood, fire, outbreak of pestilence, infectious diseases or other calamity, whether similar to the foregoing or not. 20. 6.5.3 The CRC further recommends that this extension should be limited to periods not exceeding 6 months at a time for a maximum extension of 2 years. Furthermore, where the circumstances persist, the first extension is to be approved by a simple majority vote in the House of Representatives, and any extension thereafter must be by a 2/3 majority vote, respectively in both houses of the Parliament. 7%. Composition of the Senate. 7.1% increase of membership. 7.1.1 The CRC took note of the recommendation of the JCCR to increase the membership of the Senate. 7.1.2 It further noted that in the past there have been many other proposals for altering the composition of the Senate as well as the manner of appointing its members. The CRC does not consider that there is any need for radical alteration of its composition, but agrees that some provisions should be made for the inclusion of persons who are not aligned with the government or opposition parties and who would be able to exercise independent judgment on all issues. 7.1.3 Accordingly, the CRC recommends that the size of the Senate be increased from its present membership of 20. Adapted from Section 22C of the 1962 Constitution of Jamaica. Page 39 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024, 21 to 27, appointed by the President as follows. 15 members on the recommendation of the Prime Minister. Seku. Numbers 9 members on the recommendation of the Leader of the Opposition. And 3 members in the President's discretion from among outstanding persons in the private sector, civil society, faith-based or community-based organizations, or other sectors of society as the President considers necessary. 7.2 Vacancy in the Senate. 7.2.1 Following on the recommendation to expand the membership of the Senate to include the appointment of persons who are independent of the political parties in the Parliament, the CRC examined other constitutions which make provision for independent senators and how the seat of a senator may become vacant. 702.2 The CRC also noted that its Section 35 of the Jamaica Interpretation Act 1968 specifically addresses the issue of the power to appoint and disappoint by providing that the authority having the power to make the appointment shall also have the power to remove, suspend, reappoint or reinstate any person appointed in exercise of the power. 21. Jamaica Interpretation Act, 1968, Section 35. Page 40 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 722.3 The members of the CRC discussed the present constitutional provisions as applied in the wholeness. Andrew V. Williams, Arthur 22, which is essentially established the principle that the power to appoint senators did not include the power to terminate their appointment. The CRC members were unable to arrive at a consensus as to whether any change should be made to the current relevant provisions of the Constitution of Jamaica, and accordingly makes no recommendation on the matter. 7.3 Retention of the Constitutional Amendment Safeguard. 7.3.1 To maintain the Constitutional Amendment Safeguard. The CRC further recommends that the proposed composition would retain the normal power of the majority party to obtain the passage of measures by a simple or absolute majority, as well as the restriction on the passage of entrenched constitutional measures without the support of at least one opposition senator. 7.3.2 In making this recommendation, the CRC took into account the grave difficulty in answering questions about the ultimate accountability of independent senators who do not enjoy popular support through any affiliation with the political parties represented in the Parliament. In contrast, senators who are appointed on the recommendation of the Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition, whose parties have secured popular support through the general parliamentary elections, by extension, also enjoy that support. 22, 2015, JMCA Civ 21. Page 41 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee, May 2024. 8. Parliamentary Nomenclature. 8.1 The CRC deliberated on proposals to change the nomenclature of Speaker of the House, President of the Senate, and Leader of the Opposition. It took note of the common usage of all three terms in constitutional systems similar to the one being proposed for Jamaica. In particular, the CRC noted that the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago retained use of the title President of the Senate, even though there is a President of the Republic. Regarding the title of Leader of the Opposition, consideration was given to a proposal made at one of the town hall meetings to rename it Minority Leader. However, recognizing that the party from which the Leader of the Opposition is named may secure the popular vote without forming government in the first-past-the-post system. 8.2 The CRC makes no recommendation to change any of these titles. 9. Citizenship. 9.1 Modification of the citizenship provisions. 9.1.1 In light of the recommendation made at paragraph 6.1.8. The CRC further recommends that any other matter that deals with the treatment of Commonwealth citizens should be provided for in ordinary legislation. In making this recommendation, the CRC also noted that there were no reciprocal provisions for the Jamaican Commonwealth citizen to be eligible for membership in the Parliament and other Jurisdictions. Page 42 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 9.1.2. The CRC also recommends that Parliament be empowered to confer privileges on or make special provisions for CARICOM citizens by way of ordinary legislation. 10%. Incorporation of Electoral Commission. 10.1 Reason for inclusion of the Electoral Commission. 10.1.1% in modern constitutional development. New institutions which enhance democracy, increase accountability, and protect human rights have emerged. Many modern constitutions expressly include these institutions and give them special protection. 10.1.2 Democracy depends on the preservation of free and fair elections. In Jamaica, the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ, has played a critical role in the achievement and maintenance of this standard. In 1993, the Constitutional Commission recommended that the ECJ should be enshrined in the Constitution. In 1995, the JSCCR repeated and reinforced this recommendation. In 2006, Parliament passed the Electoral Commission Interim Act, which declared that the ECJ should be entrenched in the Constitution. 10.2 New developments on the ECJ. 10.2.1 The CRC noted that there have been new developments in the institutional arrangements for the ECJ, where the law has recently been amended to provide for the functions of the Office of the Ombudsman to be carried out by the ECJ. The CRC considered whether these functions, which are to be performed by the commissioners of the ECJ, should also be. Page 43 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. Entrenched, having regard to the divergence in views expressed. The CRC recommends that the functions to be entrenched should not include the functions of the political ombudsman, which should be left in ordinary legislation. 10.3 Appropriate level of entrenchment. 10.3.1 The committee considered the level of entrenchment proposed in Section 3, the Electoral Commission Interim Act. 10.3.2 The CRC does not consider that the Electoral Commission of Jamaica should be granted a status which is higher than the superior courts. The CRC therefore recommends that the Electoral Commission of Jamaica be granted the same level of entrenchment as the superior courts. 11. Incorporation of the Office of the Public Defender. 11.1 Background to the treatment of the Office of the Public Defender. 11.2 The Public Defender Interim Act of 2000 provides, this act shall continue in force until provision is made in the Constitution of Jamaica for the establishment of a public defender in terms which preclude the alteration of that provision otherwise than in accordance with the procedures prescribed by or in relation to Section 49(2) of that Constitution, and shall then expire. 11.3 The implicit undertaking to Constitution was supported by express deliberations by our political parties. This office is charged with the responsibility to investigate. Incorporate this office in our. Page 44 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. And recommend remedies where members of the public have been subjected to injustice or any breaches of their constitutional rights. 1104 The CRC further noted that since then, the 2011 Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms replaced Chapter 3 of the Constitution and made drastic changes. 11.5 Under the Charter, not only is the state under an obligation to promote universal respect for an observance of human rights and freedoms, but all persons are now under a responsibility to respect and uphold the rights of others recognized under the Charter. Accordingly, the functions of the Office of the Public Defender are now of greater significance. 11.6 The CRC therefore recommends that the undertaking be honored, and that the Office of the Public Defender be incorporated in the Constitution with the basic functions and appointment process as stated in the current Act, and be afforded the same level of entrenchment as proposed for the Electoral Commission. 12. The issue of the final appellate court. 12.1 There have been considerable discussions on the question of whether Jamaica should, at this time, abolish appeals to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, JCPC, and substitute the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, as its final appellate court. Such a change is unlikely to be achieved unless the two political parties represented in the Parliament are in support. Page 45 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 12.2 At the commencement of its work. The CRC understood the government's position to be that the issue of the final court would be considered at a later stage, while the opposition was pressing for it to be included in the first phase of the work. 12.3 Since then, the leader of the opposition has indicated on a political platform that he will not support the reform if it excludes a determination of the final court at this time. The position of government remains that it should be dealt with at a later stage and that the matter be fully debated in the public sphere. 12.4 The CRC is of the view that these conflicting positions pose a serious risk to the success of the reform work, as the intended alteration of the constitutional provisions cannot succeed without the support of the two political parties represented in the parliament. 12.5 As a way of helping to resolve the dilemma, the CRC considered whether the leaders would assist in building consensus and also, if there is no consensus, whether the issue of the final court should be placed on the referendum ballot. 13. The amendment process. 13.1 Jamaica's sovereignty and legislative competence. 13.1.1 The power of the Parliament to provide for a new constitution is set out in the Jamaica Independence Act, 1962 and in the Constitution of Jamaica, 1962 itself. 13.1.2 The Jamaican Independence Act declared that as from the 6th of August 1962, Jamaica attained full responsible status and the government of the United Kingdom had no further. Page 46 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. Responsibility for the Government of Jamaica. The legislative powers of Jamaica are also referred to in the first schedule to this act, which include the power to make laws having extraterritorial operation. The act states that laws made by the Jamaican Parliament shall not be void or inoperative because of conflict with acts of the UK Parliament or any order, rule or regulation made under such acts of the UK Parliament. 13.1.3 The powers of the Jamaican legislature are stated to include the power to repeal or amend any such act, order, rule or regulation insofar as it is part of the law of Jamaica. 13.1.4 The Parliament of Jamaica is also empowered by Section 49 of the Constitution to alter any of the provisions of the Constitution and any of the provisions of the Jamaica Independence Act insofar as it forms part of the laws of Jamaica. 13.1.5 Section 49.3 provides that the process to alter the deeply entrenched provisions of the Constitution requires that a bill be introduced in the House of Representatives, after which a period of 3 months must elapse between the introduction of a bill in the House of Representatives and the commencement of the first debate. After that initial 3 months, a further 3 months must elapse between the conclusion of that debate and the passing of the bill by that House. The bill must then be tabled in the Senate, debated and passed. The bill must be passed in each House by the votes of not less than 2/3, 2/3 of all. Page 47 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. Members of the House following which it must be submitted to the electorate to be approved by a majority not less than 2 months, nor more than 6 months after its passage. 13.1.6 The word alter is defined as including amend, modify, reenact with or without amendment or modification, make different provisions in lieu of, suspend, repeal or add to. 13.1.7 Section 3 of the Jamaica Constitution, Order in Council 1962, brought the Independence Constitution into force. The Constitution is a schedule to this order. The order itself provides that Parliament may alter the provisions of the order. 13.1.8 Jamaica's sovereignty and legislative competence are therefore beyond question. Hence, the recommended reforms can be made legally by applying the procedure for constitutional amendments specified in the Constitution. 13.2 The title of the reformed Constitution. 13.2.1 The CRC has considered various alternatives for the title of the reformed Constitution. These include I. The Jamaican Constitution. Second, the Constitution of Jamaica. 2. The Constitution of the Republic of Jamaica. And Ivor. The Republican Constitution of Jamaica. 23 See Section 21 of the Order in Council. Page 48 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 13.2.2 The CRC recommends that the Constitution of Jamaica as the title to be used. 13.3 Preparation and issuance of drafting instructions. 13.3.1 The CRC considers that this report, accompanied by such decisions as the Cabinet may make, will provide directly or indirectly adequate bases for the drafting instructions. 13.3.2 The CRC's work has already been facilitated by the presence and participation of the Attorney General as one of its members, and the Chief Parliamentary Counsel and Director of Law Reform as members of the Secretariat. 13.4 Enactment of a referendum law. 13.4.1 The recommendations of the CRC, if accepted, will involve a reformed constitutional instrument and the replacement of deeply entrenched provisions of the present Constitution. These will require the approval of the electorate in a referendum. 13.4.2 Accordingly, the CRC recommends that the drafting instructions should also include the preparation of a referendum law. 13.4.3 The CRC expects that the process to hold a referendum will be fairly straightforward, since the Electoral Commission of Jamaica already has the statutory power to conduct referenda and under the constitutional provisions. The people entitled to participate in the referendum are the registered voters. Page 49 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee. May 2024. 13.5 Public Education and Engagement. 13.5.1 It will be essential for the successful completion of this phase of the constitutional reform project that the public be sensitized to its importance and persuaded to adopt a positive attitude to the proposed reforms. 13.5.2 The constitutional amendment process lays down a liberal time schedule frame for the tabling, debate, and passage of the reform bill. As provided for by the Constitution, a period of 3 months must elapse between the tabling of the bill and the commencement of the debate in the House of Representatives. A further period of 3 months must elapse between the conclusion of that debate and the passing of the bill by the House of Representatives. 13.5.3 This timeline allows for full public education and engagement on the content of the bill. 13.5.4 Accordingly, the CRC recommends that the public education and engagement exercises should be expanded and given the support of the political leaders of the nation and all parliamentarians. Page 50 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee, May 2024. 14. This constitutes the report of the Constitutional Reform Committee on the transition to the Republic of Jamaica and other matters, Phase 1. HUMA. Dated 3rd day of May 2024. Honorable Marlene Malahoo Forte, Ambassador Rocky Mead, Co-Chairman. D.I. Derek McCoy. House for Brahall. Senator Ransford Braham. Senator the Honorable Thomas Tavares. Finson. Senator Donna Scott Motley. Mr. Anthony Hilton, Mr. Hugh Small. Dr. the Honorable Lloyd Barnett. Dr. David Henry. Professor Richard Albert. N.A. Sheen. Dr. Nadine Spence. San Matz. Mrs. Loletta Davis Mattis. Ama Cathy. Dr. Elaine McCarthy. Mr. Sujay Boswell. Page 51 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee, May 2024. Blank page. Page 52 of 52. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee, May 2024. Annexures. Report of the Constitutional Reform Committee, May 2024. Blank page. Annex E. Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. Terms of reference. For the Constitutional Reform Committee. July 29, 2022, revised January 2023, further revised February 2023, finalized March 22, 2023, edited for clarity and consistency in language at paragraph 3.1 with paragraph 1.2.2 of the final report of the CRC, Phase 1, on April 24, 2024. Minister, Honorable Marlene Malahoo Forte, KC, JP, MP, Permanent Secretary, Mr. Wayno Robertson, JP. 1. Background. 1.1 The continued symbolic presence of the British Crown in the constitutional makeup of the Jamaican state and other Commonwealth Caribbean realm countries has been repeatedly placed on reform agendas. In the 6 decades since the enactment of the Independence Constitution of Jamaica in 1962, there have been 2 noteworthy reform periods, the 1970s and the 1990s up to 2015. 1.2% A lengthy process of constitutional reform began with the establishment of the Constitutional Reform Division in the Ministry of Justice in 1977. The research and technical support of the division proved invaluable to a Joint Select Committee on Constitutional and Electoral Reform, JCCR, that was appointed in 1991. The mandate of the JCCR was to review the Independence Constitution of Jamaica and make recommendations for its reform. Following on the recommendation of the JCCR that a new constitution should be framed, the Parliament established a constitutional commission, the Commission, charged with the responsibility of soliciting the views of all Jamaicans and providing a report on the outcome of its consultations. 1.3 The first and final reports of the Commission were submitted in 1993 and 1994, respectively, and included an examination of Chapter 3, Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms. The report of the JCCR was tabled in the Parliament in 1995. 1.4 A Green Paper, tabled in the Parliament in May 2007, proposed that following the next general elections, a bill providing for a new constitution should be brought to Parliament. It is important to point out that the Green Paper did not depart from the recommendations made by the JCCR. In fact, it urged parliamentarians to acquaint themselves with the report with a view to advancing the implementation process. The following section of the Green Paper is instructive. The report presented in 1995 and subsequent deliberations have indicated a wide area of agreement that the assumptions that underlie the present constitution no longer reflect the prevailing sentiments either in the political parties or the nation. 1.5% Despite the flurry of rhetoric and reform efforts, the fundamental institutional structures have largely remained unchanged. As a signal of his administration's seriousness about constitutional reform, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, on PCMP Prime Minister, established the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs on January 10, 2022 to take charge of and give focused attention to the Government of Jamaica's GOJ's legislative agenda and its legal and constitutional reform aspirations, and specifically, to spearhead the most meaningful and one extract from Green Paper on Constitutional Reform Issues, 29 May 2007. Comprehensive post-independence constitutional reform work to be undertaken in Jamaica. Building on the work of the JCCR and the Commission, the goal in this regard is to ultimately produce a new Constitution of Jamaica, enacted by the Parliament of Jamaica. Establish the Republic of Jamaica as a parliamentary republic to replace the constitutional monarchy and affirm Jamaica's self-determination and cultural heritage. 1.6 Although much work has been done by the JCCR and the Commission, some important substantive and procedural issues remain unresolved. For example, moving forward, should we continue with the process of a referendum? Embarking on yet another constitutional reform exercise at this time is therefore to be seen as taking the step required for implementation of the agreed recommendations, while working to build consensus in related areas. However, a review of the recommendations is necessary, having regard to the passage of time between 1995 when they were made and now. Furthermore, some amendments have been made to the Constitution over the years, with the most significant being the replacement of Chapter 3 with the provisions of the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms in 2011. 1.7 Against this backdrop, a high-level Constitutional Reform Committee, CRC, has been established to, inter alia, perform an advisory and oversight role with respect to the reform work, including the transition from a constitutional monarchy to a republic. 2.1. 2.2. Purpose. The purpose of the CRC is to assist in providing expert guidance and oversight to the government and people of Jamaica during the constitutional reform process. To inter alia, implement the recommendations of the JCCR on which consensus remains, while helping to build consensus where it has eroded or is non-existent on other related matters. In particular, the CRC is required to assess how the passage of time has impacted the recommendations of the JCCR contained in its final report, 1995, which were submitted to and approved by the Parliament, and advise what fresh perspectives ought to be considered in light of any new national, regional, or international development between then and now, as well as recommend any necessary modification to update the recommendations for implementation. Evaluate the said recommendations of the JCCR on the establishment of the Office of President, and advise on the nature of such presidency, the qualifications and tenure of the President, and the legislative, executive, or ceremonial powers to be exercised by the President. Assist in coordinating the required parliamentary cross-aisle and nationwide consultation and collaboration during the various phases of the reform work, and in particular, help to educate the electorate on their role in the referendum process, in order to successfully transition from a constitutional monarchy to a republic and to provide for related matters. generally agree on and guide the sequence of steps to be taken to implement the said recommendations of the JSCCR and other recommendations for implementation to achieve the overall reform goal. 3.1 3.2 Scope of work. The CRC is required to help guide the constitutional reform process throughout all phases of the work, including during the referendum process, with the charge to produce a modern and new constitution which reflects an appreciation and understanding of Jamaica's cultural heritage, governance challenges and development aspirations, and which embodies the will of the people of Jamaica. The work will be executed in three phases. Phase 1, patriation of the Constitution of Jamaica, abolition of the constitutional monarchy, establishment of the Republic of Jamaica, and all matters within the deeply entrenched provisions of the Constitution for which a referendum is required to amend. Phase 2. Review other ordinarily entrenched provisions of the Constitution, for which amendments are desired and required, including the wordings and provisions on the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms set out at Chapter 3. 3.3. 3.4. Phase 3. Full assessment of the nation-state's legal and constitutional infrastructure to facilitate putting together a new Constitution of Jamaica. The CRC is expected to regulate its own proceedings to ensure that all aspects of the work are completed on time and within agreed budget. In conducting its review and making its recommendations, the CRC is expected to, inter alia, examine the provisions of the Order in Council, the Constitution of Jamaica and the Jamaica Independence Act, and identify the provisions that may require amendment or revocation to give effect to the reform. Recommendations. Advise and make recommendations on the shift from a constitutional monarchy to a republic, including the manner of selection of the head of state, the powers to IV. Be exercised by the head of state and the power dynamics within Jamaica's governance structure. Comparatively examine the processes adopted by other constitutional monarchies that have transitioned to a republic, such as Trinidad and Tobago, Kenya, Mauritius, and Barbados, with consideration being given to any difference in the Constitution of Jamaica. As for Phase 2, conduct an in-depth review of the provisions of Chapter 3 of the Constitution, Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, to clarify the legislative intention and make recommendations for reform of any of its provisions where necessary or advisable. Consult with constitutional law practitioners and as wide a cross-section of the public from whom the committee deems it useful to obtain views on the proposals for reform and the proposed process for transition from a constitutional monarchy to a republic. 4.0, 4.1, 4.2. The CRC will be required to serve between March 1, 2023, and no later than the end of the constitutional life of the Parliament. The duration of Phase 1 is approximately 2 months, focusing specifically on the transition from a constitutional monarchy to a republic and related matters for the bill, for which a referendum is required. The other phases will proceed in sequence, after the tabling of the bill, and will run in parallel to the work to be done to prepare the electorate for the referendum. Outputs deliverables during Phase 1. The CRC will be required to deliver the following. Work plan encompassing work to be executed, including timelines to be finalized by March 29, 2023. Draft report on the matters deliberated upon to be prepared by April 12, 2023. Final report with recommendations for Cabinet approval by April 14, 2023. Tabling of the bill by May 30, 2023. General guidance and specific support during the referendum process that is contribute to the design of the referendum ballot, etc. 5.2 All deliverables must be submitted to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. V6. 6.1 Members of the Committee. The CRC is a high-level committee with representation from a diverse cross-section of the society, comprising the following. Honorable Marlene Malahou Forte, KC, JP, MP, Chairman Ambassador Rocky Mead, CD, JP, PhD, Co-Chair Office of the Prime Minister, Dr. Derek McCoy, CD. KC, Attorney General of Jamaica, Senator the Honorable Tom Tavares Vinson, OJ, CD, KC, President of the Senate and Commissioner of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, Senator Ransford Braham, CD. KC, Government Senator, Senator Donna Scott Motley, Parliamentary Opposition Senate, Mr. Anthony Hilton, CD. MP, Parliamentary Opposition House of Representatives, Dr. the Honorable Lloyd Barnett. OJ, National Constitutional Law Expert, Professor Richard Albert, International Constitutional Law Expert, University of Texas. Mr. Hugh Small, KC, Consultant Counsel and nominee of the Leader of the Parliamentary Opposition. Dr. David Henry, Wider Society Faith-Based. Dr. Nadine Spence, Civil Society Social and Political. Commentator, Mrs. Loletta Davis Mattis, CD, JP, National Council on Reparation. Mr. Sujay Boswell, Advisor on Youth Strategic Engagement. Dr. Elaine McCarthy, Chairperson. Jamaica Umbrella Groups of Churches, Committee Liaison Officer. Mr. Christopher Harper, Senior Constitutional Reform Officer, MLCA. 7. Old use of the Chairman and Company Chairman. 7.1. The Chairman and Company Chairman are expected to, inter alia, chair meetings, finalize a work plan to meet the objectives and scope of the project and manage the approved work plan. Coordinate the activities of the CRC, ensure timely submission of all deliverables, assign tasks and provide guidance, where necessary, to the CRC members, establish subcommittees, where necessary, to advance the work of the CRC, provide updates as and when required, manage issues and risks, liaise with key stakeholders, ensure that the project is completed on time and within budget, provide general oversight of the work of the CRC, be ultimately accountable for the outcome of the project. 8.1. Role of the CRC members. The members of the CRC are required to contribute to the completion of the various deliverables and the overall project, perform assigned tasks and make submissions in a timely manner, ensure that all documentation is properly maintained for ease of reference, attend meetings, participate in subcommittee meetings if and when required, liaise with the Secretariat when necessary, work harmoniously with the Chairman and Company Chairman, other CRC members, and key stakeholders. 9.1, 10.10.01, 10.02, 11.11.1. Secretariat Technical Support. Secretariat support to the CRC will be provided by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, constituted in accordance with the prior approval of the Cabinet. The Secretariat will act as a resource for the CRC, offering technical and administrative support. Meetings. Frequency and modality. The frequency of meetings will be informed by the work to be done within the proposed timelines and as agreed to by the CRC. The CRC will meet face-to-face, virtually or in a hybrid format as the circumstances require. Quorum. A minimum of 50%, plus one CRC member are required for the meeting to be recognized as authorized, and for recommendations and decisions to be accepted for implementation. 7. 12.12.1, 13.13.1, 1.14.14.1. Decisions of the Committee. Decisions within the scope of the CRC's authority shall be made by consensus. Company opting members. The Chairman Minister may co-opt people with the requisite expertise, if necessary, to serve on subcommittees or otherwise assist the CRC in carrying out its work. Reporting relationship. The CRC reports to the Cabinet through the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, who is Chairman of the Committee, and is also required to maintain functional working relationship with the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, as head of the Secretariat. 15. Compliance with laws, policies, and procedures. 15.1. The CRC is required to comply with all relevant Government of Jamaica laws, policies, and procedures. 7th. Annex to second list of people and organizations that made submissions. I2, 3, 4, VV 7, the 8s, IX, X, she. C, she, XV, XDI, XDIAV. XCHI, I, CHECSARD, XXIV, XXV, XXVI, XXVI, XXVI. Emile Fraser, Canute Thompson, Camaria, Spalding, Joel Namdarkham, Marlene Demercado, Philip James, Alexander Scott, Nashe Martin, Henry C. Morant, Anthony Thompson, West Indian Tribal Society, Keanu Solon, O'Shane Wright, Stephen Linton, Anthony Atkinson, Howard McDonald, Seymour, Grays, Jamaica Beach, Birthright Environmental Movement, Patrick W. Johnson, Norman Thompson, Nathan Newman, Jamila Richards, Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, Romaine Thomas, Randolph Rossi, Michael Robinson, Equality for All Foundation, Yamai Iguani Council. IX. Annex the Third Proposed Preambles. Preamble submitted by Professor Edward Bove. We, the people of Jamaica, do hereby inscribe and enshrine in this Constitution those principles by which we assume our place in the world community of free and self-respecting peoples. The conviction and pride with which we espouse these principles derive from the knowledge that they have evolved out of a history of endurance, struggle, and sacrifice, which began in bondage and exploitation for the majority of our ancestors, but which saw, in despite of these hardships, the gradual emergence of an independent democratic nation. By this Constitution and believing in the inherent dignity of all persons, we affirm our commitment to those tried and proven principles of democracy by which the freedom of the individual is guaranteed within the context of the general good, by which all men are considered equal before the law, by which equal opportunity and social justice exist for all, and by which, having regard to our national motto, out of many one people, no one shall be denied these freedoms and rights on the grounds of color, class, religious belief. By these principles we seek to promote the well-being, material, moral, and spiritual of all citizens, and to preserve a nation secure in its commitment to those ideals which reflect our best common hopes and aspirations, believing in the idea of the brotherhood of all men, and humbly acknowledging the supremacy and beneficence of God. X. Preamble submitted by the Honorable David Corr, QC. We, the people of Jamaica, affirm our commitment to the preservation and steadfast observance of those principles of individual freedom and democratic government that are our inalienable heritage. We enjoy this heritage and hold it in trust to pass on to future generations by virtue of the struggles and sacrifices of our forefathers. They came to this land at different times, in different circumstances, and from different regions of the earth, but in the majority they came in bondage from the mother continent of Africa. From these harsh beginnings has been fashioned an independent democratic nation, with an honorable place in the world community of free and self-respecting peoples. In this long journey we have been blessed with leaders of courage and vision, with artists, writers, musicians and athletes who have carried the name of our country with honor and glory throughout the world, but above all with an indomitable determination through centuries of hardship and struggle to create a nation of freedom and justice. In this Constitution we give form and substance to those tried and proven principles of democracy, whereby the fruits of that struggle can be guaranteed for ourselves and future generations, while preserving the essential features of those institutions that have served us well in the past. We are conscious of our obligation to make those changes that experience has shown will better promote the material, moral, and spiritual well-being of all Jamaicans and the enjoyment of the beauty and fertility with which our land and surrounding seas have been so abundantly blessed by Almighty God. Consistent with these purposes and convinced that the time is right for the full expression of our national identity, we now, by this Constitution and in the exercise of our sovereign will, establish the Republic of Jamaica. She. Preamble submitted by Jeffrey Mordecai, attorney at law. Conscious that final power and responsibility resides in the people, we agree this Constitution and create the Republic of Jamaica to build a better Jamaica for all. Out of many, one people, we take pride in our Constitution and the representative democracy it creates as evidence of how our people, by their unity of purpose, can transform centuries of sacrifice, endurance, and struggle into progress. By this Constitution, we affirm our commitment to those tried and proven principles of democracy which guarantee the inherent equality, dignity, and freedom of the individual with equal respect for others and for the general good. We recognize the contributions of our ancestors, national heroes, leaders, artists, and authors, sportsmen and women, and other stalwarts, and hope their example will inspire a common commitment to and participation in Jamaica's development. We also recognize that Jamaica's development must be based on the promotion, protection, and preservation of the environment. We emphasize the role to be played by our organizations and institutions, supported by a free press and media, and express our determination to develop a society based on the rule of law which guarantees the moral, material, and spiritual well-being of all in Jamaica and all of Jamaica by fulfilling the call for one love, one unity under God. Preamble submitted by Senator Ryan G. Peralto. Out of many, one people describes most aptly the mixture of ethnic strains which have mingled and blended to create this island nation. Cognizant of this rich heritage, which has sired and nurtured the Jamaican people, bonding us in our struggles to establish a just, free, fair, and noble society. Recognizing the variety of cultural, social, and economic origins from which our forebears migrated or were brought in bondage to this land. being ever mindful that these people become as one, united in the struggle to survive, which gave birth to this nation. Reaffirming our pride in our history of courage, vision, and commitment displayed by our leaders and our people, with honor and dignity through centuries of hardship, we, by this Constitution, do hereby declare certain fundamental principles and procedures. In order to preserve for this and future generations inalienable rights and freedoms which the dignity of man deserves as intended by the Creator, and for which generations of our people agitated, fought, and died to create a homeland. To this purpose, we the people do hereby declare this Constitution as our sovereign will, as we establish the Republic of Jamaica. Preambles submitted by the Honorable Sir Philip Sherlock, O.J., whereas the passage of time and the cumulative experience in the management of the nation's affairs have made it necessary to amend, change, and add to the Constitution of Jamaica. And whereas Jamaica is the second black country in the Western Hemisphere to achieve independence, and by reason of its history is closely and indissolubly linked with the West African people, and with the Afro-American people whose origins lie in the African diaspora, and whereas Jamaica's freedom and independence were achieved in the course of 3 centuries of liberation struggles, civil rights uprisings, and the rejection of a racial ideology, and whereas European domination was rooted in the doctrine of African inferiority, the denigration of Africa, and the inculcation of self-contempt in people of African origin, it therefore becomes necessary to set forth in this preamble to the reformed Constitution certain of the guiding principles enshrined therein, these being: A. The affirmation that Jamaica is predominantly a black nation, that the great majority of its people are of African origin, and that their history dictates that national consciousness also means racial consciousness. B. The claiming likewise of a European heritage. C. The cultivation of respect for and appreciation of the cultures of the Jews, Arabs, Indians, and Chinese who have enriched and added quality to the Jamaican way of life. D. The recognition that for 3 centuries it was their black ancestors and not the European rulers who preserved the passion for freedom and for XIV justice, and that in consequence the Jamaican people are committed to the principle of preliminary democracy, accepted the importance and value of the individual human being, regardless of race, color, creed, and gender, and express this commitment through a system of universal adult suffrage in which every Jamaican citizen over the age of 18 has the right to vote by secret ballot. E. The recognition that by reason of their record of achievement and of triumph over the denial of the rights of personality, the Jamaican people set great value on protecting and preserving, by all means in their power, the principles of freedom, equal justice for all, equality of opportunity, freedom of conscience and association, freedom of speech, the right of access for all to educational and training opportunities, protection for children, the underprivileged, and the handicapped. Underlying these aims is the belief, validated by their history, in the capacity of the Jamaican people to govern themselves as an independent nation. The Constitution memorializes these achievements and is the people's pledge to their ancestors. From tribulation the people harvested triumph. XV. Preamble submitted by Dr. the Honorable Lloyd Barnett, O.J. We, the citizens of Jamaica, acknowledge the blessed gift of a beautiful island home of brilliant sun, verdant fields, meandering streams, and lofty mountains. We acclaim the sacrifice and struggles made by our national heroes, freedom fighters, and dedicated brothers and sisters to secure our achievement of liberty and nationhood. We now proclaim and publish this Constitution of the Republic of Jamaica as an instrument for the promotion of a society of law and justice, respect for human rights, good neighborliness, and peace, the promotion of democracy, and the advancement of human dignity. Accordingly, as from now the following provisions shall have effect as the Constitution of the Republic of Jamaica. The Preamble submitted by Randolph Rossi. We the people of Jamaica, in order to form a more unified and just society, ensure domestic peace and prosperity, provide for the national defense, promote the welfare of our society, and secure the blessings of a republic's liberty and sovereignty to ourselves and our posterity, proclaim Jamaica a sovereign nation, and hereby ordain this Constitution as the governing Constitution of Jamaica, to enshrine the inalienable rights and fundamental freedoms of the individual, and of the people of the nation as a whole. This Constitution shall be the supreme law of Jamaica, and it shall abolish the Order in Council 1962, and its form of government. We the people of Jamaica declare Jamaica a constitutional democracy, instituting a representational democratic form of governance. We declare ourselves a nation indivisible, indissoluble, and a nation where the rule of law is the governing principles of the nation. Any other law that is inconsistent with this Constitution shall prevail, and the inconsistent laws shall be null and void. Extend. Preamble submitted by the Honorable Marlene Malahoo Forte, KC MP. We, the people of Jamaica, do hereby enact this Constitution in order to form a more unified and ever more just society and to assume our place in the community of sovereign nations. We proudly acknowledge the sacrifices and struggles of our ancestors to free us from bondage and to secure our nationhood. We exclaim our gratitude to God for the natural beauty of our island, from riverside to mountains, from cane fields to the sea. We celebrate our achievements at home and abroad, with confidence and belief in our innate ability to accomplish what we may, in pursuit of our own destiny, triumphant, proud and free. We affirm our commitment to the advancement of inherent human dignity, honor and integrity, as one people out of many, regardless of race, class, color or creed. A peaceful society of good neighbors with respect for rights and responsibilities, law and order, and the promotion of sound principles of democracy and the advancement of our national goals. We declare from this day forward this Constitution as our sovereign will of the Republic of Jamaica. Ext. And. Annex 4 National Symbols and Emblems. A. The National Emblems. National Flag, black, green and gold. Sheiks. 2. National Anthem. Lyrics. Eternal Father, bless our land. Guard us with thy mighty hand, keep us free from evil powers, be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever, Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. Teach us true respect for all, stir response to duty's call, strengthen us the weak to cherish, give us vision lest we perish. Knowledge send us, Heavenly Father, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever, Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. Reverend and Honorable Hugh Sherlock, OJ, OBE, the late Honorable Robert Lightbourne, OJ, the late Mapletoft Poole and Mrs. Poole, now Mrs. Raymond Lindo. XX. Music. Jamaica National Anthem, 4 parts and descant in harmony with original version. Strengthen from a week to 5 hours. Noel grant true wis. Dom from Bove. Dissonant. XX. 2. The coat of arms, out of many, one people. XG. B. The national symbols. I. National tree. Scientific name, Hibiscus elatus. Common name, blue maho. X2. National flower. Scientific name, Guiacum officinale. Common name, Lignum vitae. Chichinu. National fruit. Scientific name, Blegia sapida. Common name, Aki. XXV. V. National bird. Scientific name, Trochilus polypmus. Common name, Dr. Bird or swallowtail hummingbird. XXVI. C. The national motto, out of many one people. D. The national pledge before God and all mankind. I pledge the love and loyalty of my heart, the wisdom and courage of my mind, the strength and vigor of my body in the service of my fellow citizens. I promise to stand up for justice, brotherhood, and peace, to work diligently and creatively, to think generously and honestly, so that Jamaica may, under God, increase in beauty, fellowship, and prosperity, and play her part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. E. The national song. Lyrics. I pledge my heart forever to serve with humble pride this shining homeland. Ever so long as earth abide, I pledge my heart, this island as God and faith shall live my work. My strength, my love, and my loyalty to give. O green isle of the Indies, Jamaica, strong and free, our vows and loyal promises, O heartland, 'tis to thee. XXVI. Music, to the tune of I Vow to Thee, My Country. Gustav Holst, Maestoso, Expex Thiof, F. The National Prayer. Let us pray. Let us give thanks for all God's goodness and the wonderful heritage into which we have entered. For Jamaica, our island home, the land of our birth. Response. We give thee thanks, O God. For the majesty of our hills, the beauty of our valleys, and the flaming loveliness of our gardens. Response. We give thee thanks, O God, for the warmth and brightness of our days and the calm and peace of our countryside. Response: we give thee thanks, O God, for the rich heritage of our people coming from many races, and yet one in purpose, in achievement, and in destiny, and for the dignity of labor and the service given by every citizen of our land. Response: we give thee thanks, O God, for freedom, just laws, and our democratic way of life. Response: we give thee thanks, O God, for the high privilege and responsibility of independence and for bringing us to nationhood. Response: we give thee thanks, O God, XX, for our parents, teachers, religious and other leaders, and all those who in every walk of life are helping to prepare us for responsible citizenship, and for all those who are giving voluntary service in the public interest. Response: we give thee thanks, O God, for the poets, artists, and thinkers, and all who create in us the vision of a new and better society. Response: we give thee thanks, O God, for our godly heritage, the example of Jesus Christ, and the sacrifices of our fathers in the faith. Response: we give thee thanks, O God. Bless and other ministers of government, the leader of the opposition, our parliament, our judges, and all who are sent in authority over us, and grant that under them we may be peacefully and justly governed. We pray thee, our president, our prime minister. Response: hear us, we ask thee, O God. Grant us love and compassion for all those in need and distress, and help us to remove poverty and ignorance from our land, and grant us prosperity and true wisdom, we pray. Response: hear us, we ask thee, O God. Forgive us all that is unworthy and evil in our national life, establish us in righteousness, and inspire us to work for universal brotherhood, we pray. Response: hear us, we ask thee, O God. Guide and bless our nation, we pray, and make us loyal and dutiful citizens, through Almighty God, the Father of us all. Amen. XXX. CRC Attendance Register as at May 17, 2024. Member No. Of total number meetings present absent. Honorable Marlene Malahoo 41-041 Forte. 36-541, Ambassador Rocky Mead. 41. Dr. Derek McCoy 33-8 Sen Tom Tavares Finson 1130-41 Sen Ransford Braham 1823-41. 41. Mr. Anthony Hilton 35-6. 26-15-41. Sen Donna Scott Motley, 41. Dr. David Henry, 32-9, Dr. Nadine Spence, 36-5-41, Mrs. Loletta Davis Mattis, 32-9-41, 41. Dr. Lloyd Barnett, 35-6, 37-1-38. Dr. Elaine McCarthy, joined April 12, 2023, Mr. Hugh Small, 34-7-41. 41. Mr. Sujay Boswell, 37-4 Professor Richard Albert, 39-2-41. X.